I also think that when we were leading into having, particularly Valentina, not so much Sebastian, but particularly Valentina, all the things I had, right?
Oh, yes, stuff.
And I think I did not use even 3/4 of it.
No.
And I think the money that I could have saved on not buying all the things it would have gone to a much more effective purpose of having a postpartum doula. Yeah.
Yeah.
So today we are going to talk about being a doula and what that looks like for a woman in both being a postpartum doula and then also a birth doula also.
Yeah, so the concept is pretty ancient. It's existed in cultures all over the world for centuries and centuries. However, I'm guessing probably as we have tried to gain back some of that village that we've lost, doulas have become more and more popular, especially in Australia. So the idea, so there's birth doulas, there's postpartum doulas, there's also death doulas, and I guess to break it down to the most simplistic of terms, it's someone who's there to guide you through an epic life transformation.
Yeah.
So when it comes to birth, it depends whether you give birth in a hospital or at home. In a hospital environment, you can often be left on your own labouring for a while. And so the doula will be there with you and your partner if you have one. Usually they'll do a bit of birth prep education with you before you go into labour, so you have a bit of an idea what to expect.
So it's almost like the version of, the old Lamaze class kind of thing.
Yeah.
When you go to the hospital and they do the whole, this is what will happen.
Yeah. So it's that, but in your own home. And,
Yeah.
when you're pregnant, you're sort of exhausted, and
so much
it's nice when people come to you. So they're sort of there for you. They're on call when you're close to your due date, and when you're in labour, they will either join you at home and then go to the hospital with you, or they'll meet you at the hospital. It just depends on what you've sort of stated.
Where you're at.
Yeah. And then, so in a hospital environment, they are there to support you, to support your partner as well, because you can be in labour for a really long time, and, sometimes they need to go to the bathroom or go get a drink.
John nearly passed out because I had his hand so tight.
Yeah. They're there to advocate for you, because often you can go in knowing everything, but then when you're in this environment where these people who are, in charge are telling you things that are different to what you thought you should be expecting or what you thought was best for you and your baby.
Or you didn't know.
Yeah. That's when a doula can come in and say, actually, let's turn the lights down. Actually, they asked for no vaginal checks. Please get your hand away. Things like that that sometimes just happen because you're in labour. Everything's so intense. You don't know how to advocate for yourself. So there's education, support, space holding, all of that.
In the pre-birth.
Yeah. And then during the birth as well.
And then during the birth as well, yeah. Okay.
In a home birth environment, it's a little bit different, because when you have a home birth, unless you're having a free birth, but when you're having a home birth, you have midwives there. So I think that's something that a lot of people don't realise. So a doula is by no means a replacement of a midwife.
So even a birth doula is not a replacement of a midwife?
No.
Right.
No.
Okay.
They're not medically trained. Doulas aren't medically trained, whereas midwives are. You may find, you occasionally come across someone who's a doula and midwife, but mostly doulas aren't medically trained.
Unless you're, like you said, unless you're having a free birth and you've got a birth doula.
Even then, the birth doula wouldn't be medically trained.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, but in a free birth environment, you could have your doula there, but there's not going to be
no midwife. Yeah. But in a home birth, you'll have your midwives there, but home births are quite a lot of work. You've got to fill up the pool. You've got to there's so much. You've got to get towels. There's so many things to do.
Does everyone use a pool?
No. I mean, no, I didn't.
Okay, yeah.
I had a goal too, but
okay.
yeah, I didn't get in the pool during either birth. But yeah, there's just a lot to do in a home birth, and so having a doula there is really helpful just to
extra pair of hands and support.
Yeah, so then you've also got postpartum doulas. So some doulas will offer you a birth and postpartum sort of package. Others just do birth and others just do postpartum. I personally only do postpartum. I'm in a stage of life where I couldn't be on call with two small children, even though I love birth. I also don't think I have the strength to advocate in a hospital environment. I haven't ever seen a birth in a hospital, and I didn't give birth in a hospital, so I don't think I'm the right person to be, sticking up for people. I think I would.
It would be an interesting energy in that environment. Like I'd be really curious to see how that works with a doula who is somewhat there for your support and in many ways sort of voicing your voice, and then be in that environment of a very tick box kind of, no, we need to do these things. Like that would be an interesting dynamic.
Yeah. So often you will do sort of a birth plan or a birth map with your doula. You'll go over your preferences so that then when you're in the hospital environment, they can make sure that that's what's happening. Of course, as long as the baby and the mother are both healthy. But that's a really important part of the meeting beforehand. You sort of discuss your ideal birth situation. I'm a postpartum doula, so I offer in-home care for mums and families after they've had their babies. So I usually do a visit before they have their baby so we can make a little postpartum plan. We talk about making a meal train. We talk about, making sure that they've discussed everything, like how life will look after the baby arrives. Who's going to take care of the laundry? Who's going to water the plants? What are we doing about finances? I encourage all of my clients to find out each other's love languages if they don't know that already, because often in the postpartum, everything goes out the window and it can feel really hard to stay connected. So just knowing what you can do to just make sure that other person knows that, I'm still here, I still love you, I'm just so consumed by my baby. That's really, really important for keeping the relationship stable. So I do a little planning visit, make sure they're, stocked up their pantry and fridge. And then once the baby arrives, usually it's a weekly visit over a 6-week period. The visits are 3 hours and I take food. And then while I'm there, I'm basically there to do whatever it is the mum needs in that time. So often it's some combination of I'll arrive, I'll make sure they've eaten. If not, the first thing I do is feed them. If they have, I'll make a cup of tea and then we'll sit and chat. It's really important to create space for the mum and the dad or non-birthing partner to be able to unravel and just, talk about everything that's happened in the time since I saw them, especially the birth. There's often a lot of debriefing that needs to happen there.
Yeah.
And then it's about, okay, what can we do to cocoon you and make these 3 hours the best
3 hours, of your week.
So it's often a combination of, okay, let me take your baby while you eat and then I'll give your baby back to you. You can feed them while I fold your laundry. Then I'm going to take them again and you're going to have a bath. And then you're going to have a nap. And then I'm going to make some food with some things I found in your pantry. And then off I go. Sometimes it's just sitting and talking for 3 hours because that's what they need. Other times it's walking the dog. Other times it's cleaning the bathroom. It's whatever I can do to bring peace and joy to this family is what I'm there to do.
Wow.
So often you'll find that birth and postpartum doulas will often come from a caring background already. So often you'll find that counsellors or naturopaths or massage therapists are doulas as well, whether they do doula first or the other thing first. But often, you become a doula and then you go, actually, I can see how valuable body work would be. So then
they're multifaceted, then they end up building on.
Yep. And so usually when you're looking for a doula, you'll sort of find, so people come to me because of food, but then they might go to someone else because of body work, or they might go to another person because they're also a naturopath. So it's very varied. You'll never find one doula that has the exact same offerings, but usually the right doula will tailor their offerings to meet your needs within their capabilities.
Yeah, wow. 'Cause I just, I'm just reflecting on my experience. I mean, even with both children, but particularly with Valentina, I wonder if I had have had the benefit, if I knew what doulas were, and then how different would my experience have been? And how would that have shaped my postpartum?
Maybe it would have been too nice and you wouldn't have had this vision for home and we wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yes, very true, very true.
Yeah.
And I am not, we have these experiences for all of these reasons. But, for anybody else listening and going, oh, I didn't know about a doula either. That's actually an amazing concept. I really want to look into that. I think that would be something that I would be interested in for my postpartum period. I just think it's such a beautiful thing to give. I'm only halfway through my training and I'm already in love with the entire concept.
So there is obviously a cost involved when you're hiring a doula, and it can seem like a lot of money sometimes. But something that one of my clients said to me that I'll never forget is the amount of money they saved on food because of the meal train I made for them. More than covered the cost of my services. And also there's a lot of people, there's such a huge block to asking for help. And a lot of people are really on the fence about the meal train. And the ones that were on the fence and then say, okay, let's do it, they
the best thing
never regret it. I've never met anyone that regrets a pregnancy photo shoot, and I've never met anyone that regrets a meal train. It's also because it's also a really great way of managing the guests. Everybody wants to come and see the baby, but if there's a roster there, then it can slow things down a little bit.
You can only come on this time.
Yeah. And often we'll say there'll be an esky out the front if they're too tired and can't see guests right now. Yeah.
I also think that when we were leading into having, particularly Valentina, not so much Sebastian, but particularly Valentina, all the things I had, right?
Oh, yes, stuff.
And I think I did not use even 3/4 of it.
No.
And I think the money that I could have saved on not buying all the things that it would have gone to a much more effective purpose of having a postpartum doula.
So I do want to just mention that death doulas are also a thing, because coming back to this idea that it's a big life transition, there are people out there, and it's a thing that's gaining in popularity where if you are about to pass, there's someone there to hold you in that time. And I just think that is so beautiful. And
amazing.
But with postpartum and with home, we're going to be having doulas working at home. So how do you see, why do you think the role of a doula in home is important?
Oh, wow. Where do I start? I mean, that whole ethos of the care and the listening ear and the time and the stillness and just the space to actually let a mother rest and be nurtured and be cared for. I mean, this is the whole reason why we want to do it, right? This is the whole intention. So doulas will be a huge part of the success of what home will be, along with, the beautiful benefits of having the medical expertise of the midwives. And, while we won't be administering anything, or it won't be an environment that is medical in its nature, just bringing those two worlds together, in my opinion, is actually how hospitals should be.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
A blending of those two worlds.
It shouldn't be an us versus them.
Absolutely,
we should all be
it
united.
shouldn't
If we care about birthing people, we should all be united in the way that we care for them.
Yeah. So I think I am that, the more and more that we develop and everything comes to light with how home's coming together, I'm just so excited to bring this all to life and just to see it all happen, and ultimately to know that, we are a part of making a woman's journey her own, and really knowing that women will walk out of home with that sense of empowerment and that sense of, yeah, I did that the way I wanted to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This podcast represents the opinions of our hosts and their guest speakers. Views and opinions expressed in the podcast are our own and do not represent that of our places of work. This podcast is for informational purposes only, and content here should not be taken as medical or professional advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any personal recommendations and medical care. While we make every effort to ensure that the information we are sharing is accurate based on the best available information at the time of recording, we welcome any comments, suggestions or feedback via our website contact form, home.com.au/contact. Names and details of personal experiences may have been changed to allow for anonymity and privacy. To join the conversation, join us on social media at Home Postpartum.